Hey everyone, welcome to today's early access review. Today we're looking at Risk of Rain 2. I've already covered a few okay games this week and I wasn't planning on reviewing anything else. But yesterday, Risk of Rain 2 popped up out of nowhere, and I had a bunch of people tell me that I should give the game a shot and review it. I wound up playing for multiple hours straight, and then I felt like I just had to throw in one more review to talk about this game. Risk of Rain 2 seems to largely be a reimagining of Risk of Rain, except, it's 3D now. Honestly, the extra dimension works really well, and everything about this game looks beautiful. But, if you don't know anything about Risk of Rain, it's basically a roguelike shooter that has you delving through multiple levels of increasingly difficult enemies. The longer you spend playing, the harder the game gets, and it basically forces you to progress at a reasonable speed or eventually fall behind the game's scaling. As an early access title, Risk of Rain 2 features 6 playable classes and 6 potential bosses. Bosses are largely randomized, so you'll have some variety in what you wind up fighting against in any given level. As you get further and further though, boss enemies will start randomly popping up as regular enemies throughout the game, which can create some incredibly hectic and crazy enjoyable situations. With any roguelike game, there is also a large pool of randomized items to collect as well, which will either add abilities or stats to your character. Not only that, but every item you pick up will become affixed to your character, which leads to some really funny looking characters as you progress deeper and deeper into the game. In its current state, there is really only one playable mode, which is endless survival. There are also prismatic trials, which are basically just speedruns with leaderboards on maps that are not randomized, so you can optimize paths, builds, and become the fastest Risk of Rain 2 player out there. The goals for Risk of Rain 2 as an early access game involve expanding the playable character base and bringing an actual conclusion to the main game mode. In its current state, there is no ending and there is no final boss. You pretty much play until you inevitably die. And hey, you know what? Playing until you eventually die is still pretty damn fun. Every single character feels completely unique, and there are for the most part no skills shared in common between those characters. If you're playing a new character, it feels like a new character. Get used to a completely different playstyle. Some of the characters are relatively straightforward to unlock. For the most part, 3 of the characters are unlocked by just playing the game. The final 2 characters are unlocked through events that are a little more random, but if you keep playing you'll eventually figure it out and you'll get there regardless. There are currently 4 levels of play. Once you beat the 4th level, you'll loop back to the first level, or first pool of levels. Since levels are also randomized to a degree, from there you'll continue onwards through more and more challenging enemies and scenarios. On my personal best run so far, I survived for around 72 minutes, looped through the levels twice, so I wound up seeing each level 3 times, and by the end of it all, the game was just insane. There was so much going on, I couldn't keep track of most of what was on my screen. Enemies were in front of me, behind me, beside me. It was just endless projectiles and multiple bosses running around trying to kill me. I honestly haven't had as intense an experience in a game in a very, very long time, and this was insanely fun. Not every run is a gem though. Sometimes you don't get great items and you wind up falling behind on scaling pretty quickly. Regardless, the combat in the game is so solid that you wind up not even caring. Also, in its current state, it's difficult to try to focus on any specific build. In each level, there are some chests that allow you to pick one of 3 items, so you can make the best choice based on what you need. For the most part though, loot is randomly acquired through chests that will give you any random item, or one random item that is dropped upon defeating a boss. There are also varying tiers of chests that cost more to unlock, but again, completely random. Basically, for the most part, you wind up playing to the items that you have in Risk of Rain 2, rather than trying to make a specific build. Finally, there's also multiplayer. I made sure to get in a few multiplayer games both with friends and random people. Playing with friends felt great. Nothing really changes from the single player version, there just winds up being a lot more going on, and honestly it's pretty great. Playing with random people was also largely the same, but there were a few hiccups here and there. In one case, the game was incredibly laggy and the enemies were just jumping around everywhere. In another case, it was just me and another dude. I was at a point where I had one of the best builds I think I had ever had. Unfortunately, he dies at the beginning of a level, leaves the game, and then the entire world just shuts down. If a host leaves a multiplayer game, it kind of sucks to just be booted out and not be able to finish your run. Hopefully this has improved as the game is developed, but for now, I'm sticking to playing with friends. Anyways, that's Risk of Rain 2. In its current state, it's far from being a finished game. However, being able to essentially play endlessly and constantly test yourself makes it a potentially endless source of fun. I feel like I've already got my money's worth, and then some. If you enjoyed Risk of Rain, you'll probably like Risk of Rain 2 as well. If you just like roguelike games in general, this is a super solid choice, and it may be one of the most addicting games I've played recently. Satisfactory being the most addicting game that I've played recently. Everyone, you should also go check out Satisfactory. That's an amazing game too. And don't forget, this is just in my opinion. If you disagree, feel like I left something out, or just want to suggest something for me to review, leave a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and check back weekly for more reviews.